morning, everyone. Eva Hussein from Polaron here. I would like to welcome to your computers, to your screens, to your Facebook feeds, or wherever you are, someone pretty special. Hello, Tina. Tina's from Cerebral Palsy Alliance in Sydney. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Eva. Thanks for the intro. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're very, very happy to be talking to you. Because we have done a couple of projects together, and I was just reminiscing that I've actually been to your office, and I know a little bit more about what you guys do, but other people don't. So what I was hoping that you could do is firstly tell us a bit more about your own background in terms of, you know, work experience, your education, and what you do at Cerebral Palsy Alliance.
Yeah, sure. So education-wise, I actually did my undergrad, funnily enough, in English, Media and Cultural Studies, and the old story is that you never use your degree, but now I'm combining it, and I've ended up spending most of my career so far in marketing and communications. So I worked in agencies in London, which was really great work experience, and I did the same in Sydney. I've had experience client side as well in marketing and comms. And I've really worked across lots of industries, so from like health and well-being to entertainment, finance, education, the whole lot. I actually went back to uni in Sydney and did a Master of Arts a while back, and that took me down the path of then going into freelance content writing. And here I am now at Cerebral Palsy Alliance, so I've been working here for the past about 2.5 years as the content manager.
Mm-hmm. So that's such a wide and interesting experience, both educationally and professionally. Tell us though, what does the Alliance do, and why is it called Alliance, not a service, not a, you know, I don't know what other name you could give it, but
Yeah.
it does give an idea for people who don't know what the Alliance does, that it's an alliance, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's really an alliance, and it's a community between our clients who have disabilities and the rest of the community. So we've actually been going for 75 years, would you believe?
Wow.
It has a very long heritage. We have sites across Sydney and wider regional and rural New South Wales and the ACT. So we do actually, as the name suggests, we focus on supporting babies, children and adults with cerebral palsy, but other conditions as well. So we do that through providing lots of different services. The first of those being therapy. So we have physios, we have occupational therapists, and we have speech pathologists, all who work really hard to provide better outcomes and to help improve the lives of our clients who have those disabilities. But there's heaps of other services as well. So we actually have a lot of accommodation homes for people who aren't able to live independently. So we have like long-term accommodation and also the short-term accommodation, which is also known as respite. Yeah, so there's really something for every stage of somebody's journey, of somebody's life who has a disability, whatever stage that is. So we have an amazing gym. So we do lots of gym programs, we have youth programs, we have life skills and lifestyle programs. So there's a lot going on.
And it does sound like a lot, but as a content writer and someone that is experienced in presenting information, I guess, what changes have you made in terms of your language? Because I think it's really interesting how you explain what the organization stands for and how it works and what happens. I mean, you are very relatable, but other than that, I think your words are very clear and very well structured. Is that something when you came on board you had to look at in terms of the language? Because, you know, in the disability space, it is something that's been changing quite rapidly, and I think for the better, where we talk to people, not at people. How are you finding writing content in that regard? Is that still a challenge, or have we you know, made so much progress that we all good to go now?
I think what we aim to do is to include people with disabilities within the community. And I think we're lucky enough in this country in that our language, the English language, is actually quite evolved. And I'm learning this now. I'm working with you guys on some of the translations. Just the nuances within languages is really fascinating. But I think we're lucky in that the way people refer to people with disability, so we say living with disability, we
Right.
try not to refer to people as disabled or to have that kind of negative association. So we try and make the language very positive because really there are lots of amazing stories of all of our clients and people come to see us for support with their disability that go on to do amazing things. So we want to support them and to empower them and to help them to build those skills and help them to improve their mobility or whatever it is that they need, so that they can contribute to the community, so that they don't feel different. And that's something we're doing to try and normalize disability and to try and kind of destigmatize it.
And that inclusive language you're talking about may not necessarily exist in other contexts, because I think in the English language, and certainly in Australia, which you alluded to, we've done a lot of work not to use words like suffering from or, you know, being disabled, as you said. But I think in the diverse contexts or some linguistic contexts and cultures, that hasn't quite made it. And, you know, when we work with our translators, we do need to make sure that appropriate language is used. But of course, it takes longer because I guess, you know, in the mainstream, if you want to call it that, in English, we everybody knows that you don't say suffering from an illness anymore. And language does matter, right? Doesn't it? Like, would you say that it does make people feel more empowered, and organizations such as the Alliance would do better? I think there's better work because of how that language includes people. So other than talking at them, it talks to them or with them, yeah?
With them, yeah, and that's something that I have learned since I've been working on translating some of our content into different languages to try and include all everybody in the community, not just people, not just English speakers. Yeah, even the word, for example, disability in some of the languages I've learned is a really negative word, and actually it's just not used. For example, if you were running a disability event, you might not even use the word disability because people wouldn't come.
There's that stigma that you mentioned, and that
Yeah.
sort of, you know, negative connotations around people with disability or living with disability. But when we talk about engaging diverse communities, multicultural communities in Australia, there are things that we all still have to do. There's a lot of progress. Only this morning I read, to my dismay and shock, that the federal government initially, when COVID hit, they were using Google Translate for key information, and I could win that. I thought, goodness, you know, one step forward and 87 steps back. But of course, the Alliance and UTINA are very committed to producing information that's not just accurate, but it's engaging for the community. So tell us, how does that work at your end? As part of it is, of course, education, and it's about developing partnerships with communities. So you can't sort of sit there and think, oh, that particular community is like this, and let's just write something for them and translate it, and we're done. How do you work with creating that engagement and also remembering that there are real people at the end of the information that you produce?
I mean, as a content manager, I think I approach any kind of content as what's really important is it creates a conversation and it creates a community with your clients or your customers. And that's kind of the same, pretty much whatever industry you're creating content for. So it's really important, if you're creating a conversation, you need to know who those clients and customers are and what they think and what they feel and what they do and who influences them, and also what channels they use. So where are they in the community? Are they, and that will depend on whether they're, you know, the demographic, whether what generation they're from. Older people, for example, might still use a newspaper. Increasingly now, video content is really popular across all cultures. And so you really need to take all of those things into account. But I guess the biggest thing is that we want to include all communities in the conversation. So as part of this project, to try and engage those CALD communities, people from different multicultural backgrounds, I had to do a lot of research into where they are, what kind of information they might want to receive, and then you need to have the skills in writing. If you're going to write an article, for example, or a case study, and if you're producing a video, you also need to know how to tell the story through that. So it's I guess a lot of it is about telling the story and then seeing what impact that has on your clients or your customers.
And you've mentioned there quite a few skills that everybody kind of needs to have, because whether, regardless of which industry you're at, communication is what we do, and especially now that everyone's on Zoom and we can't meet face to face, and also people consume information differently than what we used to. And I think we all have to come for that ride, and if you don't, you're going to stay behind. But I think in terms of the skills, what else would you say that the person could benefit from knowing in this crazy digital space that we found ourselves in, dragged into quite fast in the last few months?
Yeah, in terms of skills, so definitely content marketing. I mean, content marketing is proven to be part of any marketing strategy. So there is a commercial aspect to content as well. It can drive leads and conversions, and it definitely builds your brand profile. So there's that commercial aspect to it.
And I have to say that your content's actually really well written, and therefore much easier to translate than jargon or like you're very succinct and very clear in your messaging. And I think for our translators, when content's written that way, knowing that it'll be translated or presented to people that may not have, literacy skills that are very high or whatever it is, it does make it a lot easier. And also the way that the content's presented, I guess, so we no longer write stuff for websites. Or if we do, it's more chunked. It's as you said, videos, maybe podcasts, maybe things that are a bit more creative. So are you finding creativity in your job? Would you say that it's
absolutely? Yeah, absolutely. I didn't really answer your question before properly, Eva, when you were asking me about the skills, but it's like you do need to skill yourself in there's a way to write content. And if you read a really well written article, for example, or case study, it looks like it's really easy, but actually there's a way of doing that. So yeah, anybody who wants to write good content, I mean, there are lots of courses out there. You don't need to have a master's and all the rest of it to do that. Anybody can upskill themselves, and actually it's breaking it down, in particularly for the cold audience, into quite a simplistic way. So because they have those cultural barriers, but they also have the language barriers as well. And what we're trying to do with all the content that we produce, in whatever form that is to break down some of those barriers. So there's already the barrier of having a disability, and then there's the additional barrier of coming from a community, maybe they're a recent migrant, their English is not great, maybe they have low literacy as well. So we're really mindful of that. And it's getting feedback as well. I mean, we take our clients on the journey and we get insights into the content that we provide, and we actually measure it as well to see, how many people have engaged with this piece. Has it made a difference? Has it made an impact? And if it hasn't, then we change it, and we ask those questions. So it's about creating a relationship as well with your customers or your clients to know how they want to be communicated with.
Right, and of course, simple isn't easy. And I think when you said that you actually measure things at your end, that's music to my ears, because not many organizations do that actually, and not many organizations know how to do that, and how to be agile and shape the content in a more sort of interactive and inclusive way. But at the end of the day, as I said earlier, if your organization doesn't represent your constituents or your catchment area, you know, whether it's through staff members or people that you work with, then there's a problem essentially. And I think in a couple of previous sessions, we talked about, concept of intersectionality, and where a person may have a number of different disadvantages, or, you know, you could look at a person with so many different lenses, or you know, the barriers that you spoke of. But it sounds like the Alliance is really very much engaged and committed to making a difference to real people. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, we definitely want to support the community, and we want to support people to increase their independence, to have a better quality of life. We don't want people's disability or what cultural background they come from to be any impediment to them.
Right, right, and that's a noble pursuit. I think that having that understanding and the way that you've explained it to us is really quite. I don't know what word to use, but I'm impressed. Let's put it that way. Can you tell us maybe a success story from Alliance's point of view of how you've engaged and what you've created for the community, and particularly with CALD, or culturally and linguistically diverse audiences?
Yeah, there are so many success stories. I mean, that's the great thing about my job as the content manager, is that I get to speak to our clients like every day, every week, and to actually hear their stories. And that's a real privilege. So one that is really close to my heart is one which is part of this CALD project. So I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago of meeting an Arabic family who have triplets aged
Oh, wow.
3. Imagine that, and all of them have cerebral palsy.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we're really doing an amazing job. They work with a physiotherapist, and she's doing an amazing job at helping them to work towards their goals. And the great thing is that the physiotherapist is actually Arabic as well. So already we're breaking down those barriers, and we're helping them to communicate. So they feel more comfortable with this therapist because she speaks a little bit of their language, an interpreter's not required. And the work that she's doing, so I don't want to go into too much of the science of this, but early intervention, intervening early with therapy when babies are first diagnosed with cerebral palsy is really, really important, because like the brain is plastic, and it's able to change and form new neural pathways. So that's actually what she's doing with them, in getting there early and doing all of this therapy with them. She's they're just having amazing outcomes already, and they're just making such great progress. And we're also finding, because of the research that I've done as part of this project. So it's great having all of this amazing content and having it translated and engaging with the community, but you actually need to still build those community partnerships with other people in the community. So, you know, human rights, multicultural groups, local community leaders, medical professionals, and so on. So there's a big piece of research as well in that we want to try and disseminate our content, and we want to tell people that the services are there, because they're not always aware. There's a huge gap of particularly people from those CALD backgrounds in Western Sydney who aren't accessing the NDIS. So that's the funding that they're actually potentially eligible to. So they're not aware, they may not even be aware that the NDIS exists. It's pretty hard to navigate when they don't have, well anyway, but when they don't have the language skills available. So we're really trying to support this family in lots of ways, and helping to connect them with other community partners who can help them.
Gina, you sound like a great advocate for the Alliance, but also the people that you work with. And, you know, your passion's coming through the computer here all the way in Melbourne. And it's really interesting because what I find, and as you probably can imagine, we work with many different organizations, and, you know, the way that they engage with community ranges from box ticking, you know, let's be honest, and then people that have a real passion for clients, you know, because really, again, and you know, I've said it, but I'll say it again, at the end of that exchange, there are triplets and an Arabic speaking mum or parents. that early intervention, for example, when they understand what they're entitled to, what their rights are, what their responsibilities are, will make so much difference for the children. So I think I wanted to firstly commend you on being so knowledgeable and working with us along the way to try and make it even better. But in terms of the Alliance's plan, I know that you also connected internationally because it's an organization that's been around, as you said, for 75 years, but it also has international links, is that right?
We do actually have a research institute. Yeah, we have one here, and there's also one in the US. So yeah, we do have links with that, and they do such amazing work for for diagnosis and for stem cells, and to help with prevention.
And also, I think the other key part of your role as an organization is also informing people of what's happening in that space. Because I think, you know, starting from the concept of disability or having a disability, living with a disability, that's changed in the last few years hugely. I think where we are, you know, there's lots of work to be done. That's the other thing. But of course, we are more inclusive, more embracing, and with NDIS itself, I know that was a major shift. It was a revolution, essentially, and we had high hopes. Maybe there's still a bit of work to be done, but certainly statistics show that CALD communities aren't accessing it as well as the mainstream or English speakers. Would you give us some insight as to maybe why? So apart from the fact that they may not understand what it is, like, do you think it's access to the information or the way it's presented to them? What is it?
I think the biggest thing is, and this to some extent, there's a stigma attached to having a disability in a lot of communities, whatever your cultural background. But for kind of cultural and religious reasons, that seems to be even more prevalent in CALD communities. So there's already a stigma. So if a parent thinks that their child's not making their milestones, that there's something wrong, it'll take them a lot to go to the GP. So there's quite a lot of resistance, and that's the kind of the first hurdle. So there's the stigma of having a disability. Even when they're referred, they then have to navigate the NDIS system to access the funding, and that can take a while, and that can be more difficult with the language limitations.
And I think there's barriers that we're talking about. We all working, communities are working at overcoming them. So it's great to hear of your journey and Alliance's story. We wanted to show a very quick video, if that's okay with you, Tina, just about some of the work you've done. So I'll hand over to Andrew. Thank you.
This is the video that I mentioned before with the triplets.
Okay, how exciting.
Yeah.
مرحبا بكم. اسمي سماح وأعمل أخصائية للعلاج الطبيعي في رابطة الشلل الدماغي. نقدم الخدمات الصحية المختلفة والاحتياجات الخاصة في بيرلويد سيدني الغربية. I joined CPA because it provided me the opportunity to work in an environment with multiple health professionals where we focus on safety and quality of care to provide the best possible long-lasting outcomes. It's an organisation that focuses on client-centred practice, meaning that our services and goals are guided by you along with our expertise to improve quality of life. Cerebral Palsy Alliance is an organisation that ensures that we provide the best level of care to our families, and the way we do that is by getting ongoing training and making sure that we have the most updated tools and knowledge to provide you with the best outcomes in therapy. We're constantly going.
That's great. And if anyone wants to see that, that's on YouTube. We'll post a link to this particular video. I've watched the whole of it, and I think it's really nicely made. I quite like the tone of it and the fact. So this is the physiotherapist, right?
Yeah, that's Sama, the physiotherapist. So we're actually in the process at the moment of getting Arabic captions, particularly for that for that community. And so this is just the first video of a lot of content that I'm producing. So we'll also do something similar with one of our Chinese therapists, with one of our Vietnamese therapists, to try and include those communities and also have the translated versions as well.
I think that's a fantastic effort, and I really like how it leads into. So it starts with Arabic, then you have the English version of the situation, I guess.
Yeah.
But having subtitles in Arabic or other languages will make a big difference to people as well.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's, you know, like you said before, we're not ticking boxes. This is, you know, this is very genuine. It's, you know, this is a real family. These are real people, and this is somebody's, you know, this is their real story. So we wanted to, we wanted to capture that, and I think we have. I think it's, I think it's a nice piece of content.
I think you've done a brilliant job. It is very relatable, and you can see how what it looks like, you know, specifically. Tina, we do have quite a few questions, and if that's okay with you, I wanted to hand over to Antia just for a couple. Yeah.
Thank you. There's a question about the video. Someone is telling me that's a great video. What other languages you're translating into? How do you pick up those languages?
Oh, so at the moment we are, because we have kind of a limited budget for this project, and it's the first one of its kind, we're actually, the translations we're doing are Arabic, Chinese, so we're actually doing simplified Chinese, and some of the audio will be in Mandarin, because there's kind of there's a confusing difference that I won't go into between the different Chinese languages and between audio and written, and we'll also have Vietnamese. So how we decided on those languages was through looking at the data, and what we found was that there's a really high population of people, particularly in those three communities around Western Sydney. So one of our sites, Prairie Wood, which is kind of Wetherill Park in the Fairfield area. For anybody you probably wouldn't be aware of that because you're in Melbourne, but a specific area in Western Sydney. So we looked at the population there. There's a huge gap in particularly in those cultures who aren't accessing the NDIS and who live in that area, and also people who come through the door as well to the centre. So we'll pilot these, we'll see the impact that it's made, and we'll see hopefully that it's made a difference to those communities in terms of awareness that service and support is available for them, that funding is available, and then hopefully we'll be able to expand the project out and include different languages that are translated.
Tina, it sounds like nearly like it's a business case that you have to put forward, and you know, in terms of funding or budgets. I think once you have a success story like this, it's easier for people to see, oh yeah, that works and that makes sense. But before you do that, then there's a piece of work of trying to put it all together and explain to people, you know, that are in charge of money decisions, that that's the way to go. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it does. We do have to have the budget to create all of the content and to have it translated. So we're starting with these three languages.
Right, thank you. Over to you, Andrea.
Yes, my next question will be, what do you think it needs to be considered when producing content for multicultural communities? I guess there are different considerations to have in mind, unlike producing, you know, content for English speakers only.
Yeah, I guess it depends on a lot of things. Depends what it is that you're communicating, so the message, and it depends on the community and their level of literacy and their level of English language skills as well. So I think, always a visual is really good, and keeping it very simple, definitely not using jargon, and not assuming that they know certain terminology.
And I think the other thing is that we've all changed the way we communicate, particularly in the last 6 to 8 months. I think that's happened faster than it had been happening. And I think, you know, myself, I don't know about you, Tina, but I don't read as much. like the content I consume
Yeah.
is definitely more videos, more podcasts,
Yes.
more
Yes, definitely.
be on camera a lot more, of course,
Yeah.
and things like that. So people are looking for shorter chunks of targeted information, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, for years I wrote articles and a lot of everything was written based, and now pretty much over the last few years I've predominantly produced videos, and I guess it's just a different way of telling a story. There's still like a skill in it, but it's just, yeah, it's just a different medium. But video is particularly good for these CALD communities. I think I read somewhere about you know, the stats that it's just better received. People are more like, I think so many more percentage are likely to click on your content if it has an image, and a lot more so if it has video.
Of course, and with things like limited budgets, when you produce a video, it's so easy to recycle it in different ways. So you can make it, you know, you can cut out a bit of it and have a 10-second video. You can put subtitles, you can do voiceovers, and it's also more accessible in terms of price and how it's done. You know, software. Once upon a time, you know, you'd have to send it somewhere that would cost a lot of money and take a long time to make. So it's faster to market and also more affordable, I think, and also translations that are targeted. And you know, if you concentrate on the message rather than, as you said, how we used to communicate by writing content, that's also quicker and less expensive, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely can be, and I think people are a lot more forgiving now. I mean, we're a not-for-profit, so I produce a lot of the videos myself. So I interview, I take footage, I record the whole thing, and then have it edited and actually produced. So there's a fair amount of work in it, but I think yeah, it doesn't always have to be professionally produced.
And can I pay a compliment, Tina? I mean, I could pay compliments all day, but it does look very, very professional, that video. So well done, really well done. And as you said, it doesn't have to be a massive undertaking. It's just about how we think about that person or that family or that community at the end of our services, and how, you know, we engage with the community in a genuine, sincere way. So it's not just, you know, as we said, ticking our boxes, but more thinking about what do they need, how do they need that information presented, what can we do to get them there. And, you know, at the end of the day, the outcomes and the reduced barriers will make for happier people. I think that's a pretty simple but good principle to live by and work by, I think.
Yeah, I can't wait to share it all, actually. I mean, we're in the process at the moment of, so we've done a whole load of photo shoots. That was the first step in making our photography and making all of our content more diverse, so that people see people that look like them, they feel more comfortable. And, you know, all of the translated content that I'm working on. So the brochure, we're having some of our brochures translated. I'm creating this whole suite of videos, and then, you know, we've got podcasts and other types of content as well planned for next year. So I can't wait to share it all now, actually. So yeah, we'll be sharing it all on our social media pages probably next year once it's all made available. So yeah, we've got quite a following on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So all the stories will be on there. And yeah, they'll all be hosted on our website as well.
I think we are very, very lucky to have you as our client, because you're such a passionate and committed person to the cause, I guess. I know it's not easy. As I said, simple isn't easy, never. But I do have one other question, and that is, how can we support you? What is it that we can do? So we'll put all the social media channels on our Facebook page, and we'll definitely disseminate it as much as we can. But is there anything that we can do, you know, people watching this that can support the Alliance? What can we do?
I think really just reshare our posts. Yeah, just have a look at all the stories out there, comment on them, reshare them. That'd be amazing.
And we'll definitely
give us your feedback. Yeah, I can't wait to get feedback, especially from those communities, different community partners, in how they're receiving all of this.
And I think the intent of making it available, reducing the barriers and speaking to people directly is one that's a very noble one. So on that note, I wanted to thank you very much, Tina, for being part of this morning.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yeah, I've learned a lot, and I'm really in awe of the organization and what you do. You know, this is what partnerships look like, and this is what engagement looks like. So I'll hand over to you just for a few last words, but from me and staff at Polaron, thank you so much for sharing this with us. And any communities that want to get in touch, spread the word, we'll put all the information on our social media channels.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Eva. Yeah, I've really enjoyed having a chat and sharing more about the project.
So there's more to come, everyone. Let's see and let's watch that space. And thank you so much, Tina. Good job.
Pleasure. Thanks, Eva.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Tina. Thank you, Eva.